Your reality is a lie. This isn't a conspiracy theory. It's a conclusion reached by the world's greatest minds through a series of questions that break the universe. We're going to explore 10 of these paradoxes, from a cat that's both living and not, to the chilling reason the night sky is silent, and by the end, you will question whether your own memories are real. The man who erased himself. It's a noble idea, isn't it? That if you could go back in time, you could fix a terrible mistake, undo a tragedy, and become a hero. That's the common-sense dream of time travel, the fantasy of righting history's wrongs. But the universe has a cruel trap waiting for heroes. This is the grandfather paradox, a logical black hole that has trapped philosophers and physicists for generations. It begins with that noble intention. Imagine a time traveler, a ghost from a future that should have been. Their mission is a crusade against fate itself, to journey into the past and prevent a tragic accident that befell their grandfather, an event that cast a long, dark shadow over their entire lineage. The traveler is armed with perfect knowledge, a single-minded purpose, and a machine that can rewrite history. They arrive in the past, a world of sepia tones and forgotten moments. They find their young grandfather, full of life and unaware of the cruel fate awaiting him. The traveler intervenes. A warning is given, a path is altered, a disaster is averted. For a fleeting moment, there is a sense of absolute triumph. The shadow has been lifted, the family tree has been healed, the hero has won. But then, the paradox snaps shut. The victory dissolves into a silent, horrifying unraveling. The tragic accident, it turns out, was also an event of profound consequence. It was in the hospital, recovering from his injuries, that the grandfather first met a young nurse who would one day become the traveler's grandmother. By preventing the tragedy, the traveler has also prevented the meeting. No accident, no hospital, no romance, no child is ever born to them. And that child was destined to become the traveler's parent. The logic begins to devour itself. If your parent was never born, then you were never born. And if you were never born, then who stepped into the time machine? Who traveled to the past? Who was there to whisper the warning that saved your grandfather's life? The hero becomes a ghost. The act of saving your family becomes the act that erases you from it entirely. The cause eliminates the effect, which in turn eliminates the cause. It is a perfect, self-consuming loop of impossibility, an equation that cancels itself out. This thought experiment forces us to ask a terrifying question. Is the past a concrete wall we can never change, or is it a tangled web that instantly consumes anyone foolish enough to touch its threads? And if we can't trust our own history, how can we even be sure of who we are right now? The ship of ghosts. It's simple. If you repair a ship, plank by plank, it's still the same ship. A car with a new engine is still the same car. That's just common sense. A thing is what it is, even if its parts are replaced. But common sense is the first casualty in a war with a paradox. This one is ancient, born in the age of Greek heroes. It is named for the legendary ship of Theseus, the vessel preserved in an Athenian harbour for centuries as a monument. But time is relentless. The wood begins to rot, and the sails begin to fray. To maintain the ship, the Athenians replace a single rotting plank with a new, identical one. Then 10 planks, then 100. Then the mast splinters, and a new one is raised. Over the decades, the process continues, a slow and steady transformation. After a century of meticulous care, a profound moment arrives. Not a single original piece of timber, not a single thread from the original loom remains. But it has the same name, the same form, and a continuous history. Surely, it is still the ship of Theseus. But what if a meticulous collector has been gathering all of the old, discarded pieces? In a workshop on the other side of the harbour, he carefully reassembles them. When he is finished, a second ship stands before him, one built entirely from the authentic, original matter of the hero's vessel. The paradox delivers its mind-bending twist. Two ships exist. One has the history, the other has the matter. Now, which one is the real ship? This is not just a riddle about old wood and nails. It is a question about you. Science tells us that the human body is in a constant state of replacement. Almost every cell you have is replaced over a period of about 7 years. The physical person you were a decade ago no longer exists. You are a walking, talking ship of Theseus. This forces us to confront an impossible question. Where does your identity, your you-ness, truly live? If we can't even be sure who we are, how can we possibly hope to answer the universe's most terrifying question? Are we alone? The Great Cosmic Silence. The night sky is a beautiful, serene, and empty place. That's the common-sense view we've held for millennia, looking up at the quiet stars and feeling a sense of peaceful solitude, but that view is a lie. The sky is a sprawling, ancient metropolis of 2 trillion galaxies, home to countless suns and an uncountable number of worlds. Statistically, it should be screaming with life. Our universe has existed for roughly 13.8 billion years, giving countless civilizations a multi-billion-year head start on us. The number of potentially habitable planets is not in the millions, but in the sextillions. With so many rolls of the cosmic dice, it seems a statistical near certainty that life is common and that many civilizations are millions of years more advanced than we are. Such a civilization would have had more than enough time to master interstellar travel and leave its mark on the galaxy. We should see evidence of their existence everywhere. We should see vast engineering projects like Dyson spheres built to harness the entire energy of a star. Our radio telescopes should be flooded with their signals, the stray chatter of a galactic empire. We should see their probes, their ships, their colonies. But we see nothing. We hear nothing. When we point our most powerful instruments to the sky, we are met with a profound, unnerving, and absolute quiet. The evidence contradicts the math. This is the Fermi paradox, and the possible answers are each more chilling than the last. Are we the first? Is there a great filter that dooms all advanced life to collapse? Or is the silence deliberate? This leads to 2 terrifying possibilities. Is the great cosmic silence the sound of an empty cradle, proving we are utterly alone? Or is it the silence of a dark forest, where every creature is holding its breath, waiting for someone foolish enough to make a sound? If there are no authors out there to write the story of the universe, what about a story that has no author at all? The author who never was. Great ideas come from great minds. A revolutionary theory must have a brilliant author. That's the simple, common-sense way we think about history and creation, from symphonies to scientific breakthroughs. But what if history has a bug in its code? This is the bootstrap paradox, a logical Mobius strip where an effect is its own cause. It is a story with no beginning. Imagine a time traveler, a physicist from a distant future who idolizes Albert Einstein. He travels to the past with a single gift for his hero, a finished, beautifully bound copy of the theory of relativity brought from the future. But the man he finds is not a legend. He is a young, struggling clerk in a patent office, brilliant but frustrated, years away from his universe-altering breakthrough. Seeing his hero struggle, the traveler, in a moment of misguided compassion, decides to help history along. He presents the book to the young Einstein. The young clerk is stunned. He sees in its pages the elegant solutions to the very problems that have tormented him, laid out in perfect detail. He doesn't know where the book came from, only that it is the most profound work he has ever seen. So, he copies it, publishes the theory under his own name, and becomes the historical icon the time traveler came to venerate. History proceeds exactly as the traveler remembers it, but this perfect preservation of history creates an impossible looping question. Who is the original author of the theory of relativity? It wasn't Einstein. He copied it directly from the book. It wasn't the time traveler. He simply brought the book from a future where Einstein was already credited, but in the future, the theory exists only because Einstein published it. The theory is trapped in a perfect, closed loop with no origin point. The information was never invented or discovered. It simply is a cosmic artifact that exists only because it has always existed. This paradox suggests some things in our universe may not have a cause, but what if this principle applies not just to ideas, but to life itself? What if something could be both present and absent at the exact same moment, waiting for a choice to be made? The cat that is and is not. The world is solid and definite. A thing is either here or it's not. A cat is either living or it is not. This is the most basic, fundamental truth of our reality, the line between is and isn't. But in the quantum realm, that line is erased. The physicist Erwin Schrödinger, so disturbed by this idea, devised a thought experiment to show its absurdity. He wanted to scale it up to our world. Imagine a sealed steel box containing a cat and a vial of poison rigged to a single radioactive atom that has a precise 50% chance of decaying in 1 hour. If it decays, the poison is released and the cat's life will be forfeit. In our world, the outcome is a simple coin flip. But quantum mechanics says that until it is observed, that atom is in a superposition of both states at once. It is both decayed and not decayed simultaneously. This means everything linked to it is also in superposition. The poison has both been released and not been released, and the cat is trapped in the same quantum state. It is, with 100% physical reality, both fully alive and fully inert at the same time. A living ghost, a contradiction given flesh. It is only when an observer opens the box that this wave of ghostly possibility collapses into a single concrete reality. The simple act of looking forces the universe to pick a side. This isn't just a riddle, it's a stark demonstration that observation is not a passive act, but a creative force that solidifies reality. But this leads to the ultimate, chilling question: what happens when an unstoppable idea meets an unchangeable one? The unstoppable question. It's a simple playground question. What happens when an unstoppable force meets an immovable object? Common sense might tell you to pick a side, that one must be stronger than the other. But the paradox pushes logic to its absolute breaking point. First, define the champions. In one corner, we have the unstoppable force, an object of infinite momentum, a conceptual missile whose motion, once started, cannot be halted by any barrier, any friction, or any power in the universe. It is motion perfected into an absolute. In the other corner stands the immovable object, a thing of infinite inertia, a cosmic anchor whose position in space cannot be altered. It is stillness perfected into an absolute. Now, set them on a collision course. At the moment of impact, the universe must break one of its own promises. If the unstoppable force continues on its path, either by shattering the object or passing through it, then the object was never truly immovable. Its claim to absolute stability was a lie. If, however, the unstoppable force is stopped or deflected, then it was never truly unstoppable. Its claim to absolute motion was a fraud. There is no third option. They cannot bounce. They cannot merge. Every outcome is a contradiction. The very existence of one, absolute logically forbids the existence of the other. The paradox reveals itself not as a puzzle of physics, but as a trick of language. It describes a scenario that cannot logically exist. The true answer is that in a universe where an immovable object is real, an unstoppable force could never be created, and vice versa. It's a powerful reminder that our words can build impossible worlds. But what happens when a simple rule, written in perfectly logical language, traps a real person in an impossible world? The barber's rule, a simple rule, applied consistently, should create an orderly system. It's the common sense foundation of all laws and logic, from traffic lights to legal codes. But imagine a small, perfectly logical town governed by a single, elegant law. The barber shall shave all those, and only those, men in town who do not shave themselves. On the surface, it's a masterpiece of logical construction. The set of men in town is neatly divided into two groups: those who shave themselves, whom the barber is forbidden to touch, and those who do not, whom the barber is required to serve. The system is perfect. Then, one day, a curious child asks a devastatingly simple question: who shaves the barber? Suddenly, the town's perfect logic begins to devour itself. Let's try to answer. If the barber shaves himself, he violates the rule, which explicitly states that the barber is forbidden from shaving such men. This is a direct contradiction. So, the only other possibility must be true. The barber does not shave himself. But if he doesn't shave himself, he now falls squarely into the category of men in town who do not shave themselves, and the rule demands, without exception, that the barber must shave all such men. This is also a contradiction. He is caught in an impossible loop. If he shaves himself, he shouldn't. If he doesn't, he must. The rule, so perfect on paper, has created a logical black hole from which the barber cannot escape. This isn't just a clever riddle. It proves that a system, no matter how perfectly designed, can be shattered by trying to apply its own rules to itself. But what if a paradox isn't found in a system, but in the overwhelming freedom of our own minds? The agony of choice. Freedom is choice. More options are always better. This is the common-sense gospel of the modern world, the engine of our economy, and the promise of a better life. But psychologists have discovered a dark and twisted secret hiding in plain sight. You feel it when you sit down to watch a movie and scroll endlessly through a streaming service for an hour, overwhelmed into inaction. This is the paradox of choice. They found that when presented with too many options, the human brain does not become liberated, it becomes paralyzed. We become so afraid of making the wrong choice that we end up making no choice at all. This is analysis paralysis. Even when we do manage to break through and make a decision, the paradox delivers its second, crueler blow. We are almost always less satisfied with our choice. Why? Because we are haunted by the ghosts of the dozens of other possibilities we didn't pick, constantly asking, could I have chosen better? This leads to the paradox's final, most insidious effects. An ocean of choice raises our expectations to an impossible height, where a good outcome is a failure because it wasn't the absolute best. When our choice inevitably fails to deliver that imagined perfection, the fault becomes ours alone. You had a universe of options, and you still failed to be perfectly happy. We live in an age of unprecedented choice, yet we are more anxious and dissatisfied than ever. This paradox traps us in the present. But what happens when a paradox can shatter our very understanding of time itself? The twin who returned a stranger time is an absolute. It flows like a river, carrying everyone forward at the same speed. That's the simple, common-sense way we experience the world, birthday after birthday, year after year. But Albert Einstein's special theory of relativity proved that the river can speed up and slow down. This is the twin paradox, a story not just of physics, but of a family reunion that is also a farewell. Imagine identical twins. One chooses a life on Earth, while the other, an astronaut, embarks on an audacious mission to a distant star at nearly the speed of light. The core principle is a proven, measurable fact called time dilation. The faster you move through space, the slower you move through time, relative to a stationary observer. For the twin in the spaceship, the journey takes perhaps 5 years. On Earth, however, 60 years pass. The twin who stayed behind lives a full life, watches seasons change, and grows old. Finally, the day of the spaceship's return arrives. The astronaut emerges, having aged only the 5 years of his journey, to meet a brother who is now a stranger, his face a map of the long decades the astronaut never experienced. They are twins separated by an impassable gulf of time. Physics has made them strangers. This is not science fiction. The effects of time dilation are a reality our GPS satellites must correct for every single day. If our engineers did not, our navigation systems would become inaccurate by several miles daily. It is a stark reminder that time itself is not the reliable constant we believe it to be. It is a flexible, flowing dimension. But if time itself is this malleable, what does that say about our own minds, and the very reality we perceive within them? The brain in the void. You are real. Your memories are yours. The world around you is solid. This is the most fundamental, common-sense belief a person can have, the bedrock of sanity. But what if the cold, hard laws of physics suggest that this belief is a statistical improbability? The universe is relentlessly marching toward chaos, a law known as entropy. Our complex, orderly universe is a stunning exception to this rule. But in an eternity of time, in the near-infinite expanse of a universe that has lived and will live for trillions of years, even the most improbable events are inevitable, like a monkey randomly typing Shakespeare. And here is where the logic delivers its terrifying blow. The formation of our entire, vast, orderly universe was a statistical miracle of the highest order. It is, by an almost infinite margin, more likely for a smaller, simpler object to randomly fluctuate into existence from the chaotic void. And what is the smallest known object capable of perceiving a universe? A single, human brain. The Boltzmann brain paradox argues that it is statistically far more probable for a lone, conscious brain complete with a full set of false memories of a life lived in a universe just like ours to spontaneously form than it is for our entire universe to have actually formed in the first place. If this logic holds, you have no way to prove that you are not one. Every memory you cherish, your first love, the faces of your family, the feeling of sunshine on your skin could be random data implanted at the moment of your creation. This very moment could be part of the hallucination before you dissolve back into the nothingness from which you came. It is the ultimate paradox, the final, unanswerable question mark at the end of existence. These paradoxes aren't just clever riddles, they are the fault lines in our understanding of everything. They show us that the universe is under no obligation to make sense to us. The only real question is, are you brave enough to keep looking into the abyss? These paradoxes prove that the universe is under no obligation to make sense to us. If you enjoy questioning the nature of reality, like this video to let us know. And to make sure you don't miss our next journey into the abyss, be sure to subscribe.